What is your one piece of street advice? Story 1. I had a road rager tailing me while I was on my way to my girlfriend's house once. When I got off the interstate onto the main road leading to her neighborhood, there was a hella flush fart cannon hatchback with some kid hanging out the window flipping me off with both hands. To this day, I have no clue what I did to piss them off, but they started aggressively following me. It was at night without any other cars on the road, and the main road to my GF's neighborhood has a raised concrete median in the middle, so you can only turn left at certain places. Didn't want to lead them to my girl's place, obviously, so I went past the entrance to her neighborhood, and when the next opening in the median came up, I turned left suddenly without using the turn lane. It worked, and they went on past, and had to either hop the median in their lowered hatchback with 2 inches of ground clearance or drive half a mile before they could turn to follow me. I've always been proud of that slick maneuver, but no one was there to see it, and no one was impressed when I described it. Kind of describes half my life, now that I think about it. Story 2. Keep your car locked always, and lock your car as soon as you get inside. I work in construction, and my truck unlocks automatically when placed in park. It happened to me when I got to work one morning, and some guy just got into my truck and showed me $20 and said, "All right, let's go to the spot." Told him to get out. I had to go into work and pointed to the job site. He just said, "Oh, you work here? My bad." Got out and kept walking. I lock it every time I park to know if I'm not going to be getting out right away. Story 3. Was with a group of skater friends when I was in high school in downtown Chicago. One of our friends made a joke with some guys playing bucket street hustling about how buckets aren't instruments. 4 hours later, their entire group found us well over a mile from where we saw them on Lower Wacker Drive, which is pretty desolate for being downtown when construction is going on all the time. Between about 8 of them and 12 of us, they still got away with a couple grand worth of iPods, cameras, and other stuff they had on them. Luckily, they weren't armed or anything, but I treated the situation like they were because you never know. When one of our group refused, a fight broke out, and luckily there was enough chaos that they sort of fled. Still to this day, I've approached anything in the city like I'm being watched, and if I engage with the wrong person in the wrong way, it could end up disastrous. Even something rather seemingly innocent ruffling some feathers like "buckets aren't instruments, fools" could be all it takes. Story 4. If someone arguing with you is standing close to you and they look away from you, you are about to get sucker punched. Witnessed someone do that to my father outside a gas station, and a road rage incident guy was tailgating my dad who, wrongly, engaged by flipping him off. Dude followed us for a while and eventually broke off, but by some twist of fate we all ended up at the same gas station about 10 minutes later. Dude gets in Daddy-O's face and Dad tries to de-escalate the situation by apologizing and holding his hands up in front of him as if to physically project, "I don't want to fight." The tailgater is having none of it though and does the little step back on his right side, and the moment he pops clocked him and took him down. Police ended up coming. Dad gave them his business card, he's a self-defense instructor, and explained what happened. Cops let him go esps. Whole thing was pretty funny in retrospect. Story 5. Even if you are a tourist, don't look and act like a tourist. I got really mad at my wife on our honeymoon because of this. I grew up in such a safe suburban neighborhood. We left our front door wide open on accident and went out for the day more than once, and we weren't even worried when we got home and realized, so when I say she has zero street smarts, you know it's bad. Anyways, we were in LA and she really wanted to get a picture of the One Murder Hotel in Skid Row because our hotel was only a couple miles from it. I didn't want to drive through it, but I figured it would be fine if we were still in the car and only stopped for long enough for her to snap a picture through the window. Instead, she gets out of the car and poses in the middle of the street with her fanny pack and everything and shouts for me to take a picture. She's the type who doesn't really think about what she does or says or considers consequences to her actions. It's very stressful. Story 6. One night on my way home, it was late and I stopped to grab the mail at the mailbox about 2 miles from where I live in a semi-rural area off unmaintained dirt roads. Basically, but somewhere with a lot of traffic around midnight when this was. I was waiting to pull off the dirt patch with the mailbox onto the road, but I saw a big vehicle roll up to the stop sign, so I waited for a long time since I was not technically on the road, and eventually they shined a blinding spotlight at me, so I freaked the f*** out thinking they're going to blind me to rob me or something, so I move onto the road and eventually see it was a cop car. Even worse though is shortly after another large vehicle pulled behind me and was riding my ass when normally people pass others that drive slow on the dirt. I think the headlights were off, but I could see. So I freak out again thinking someone's following me now. And then the red and blue lights go off and I pull over and the cop starts harassing me because my plate is a little bent and the light over it is dim. They were asking where I was headed as if I were the one being sketchy. Story 7. I noticed I was being followed cause of reflections in a window once. I was in a bus station at night and my phone had barely any battery left, so I was just staring idly at the window. I saw the same distinctive pair of legs walk up and down the station 4 to 5 times and hesitate at my position every time they went past. I only noticed that their trousers had the same silhouette as the ones in Oran High School Host Club. The guy then followed me onto the bus, copied exactly what I said to the driver in an unsure tone, as if he didn't know exactly what I said and was just mimicking it. He sat right behind me and will have seen my phone die as I tried to message my sister to come meet me at my stop because felt like I was being followed. I tried to pretend I was getting off at a stop that sounded like mine, but as I stood up and sat back down, he did the same. It was then I knew for certain he was following. I had a bag of stuff from an event I'd been at with me, so had a look through to see if I could find something to defend myself if needed. When the bus stopped and I got off, I hesitated in the light from the windows to give the guy benefit if the doubt and the chance to walk away. He didn't. He waited. So I got a heavy bottle out my bag ready in my hand as he asked if I lived nearby and did I want help carrying my bag. I stood up straight with my heavy bottle clearly in my hand and said no as sternly as I could. He was all like I was only trying to help. Didn't mean to frighten you, and then wandered up the dark street I needed to go up. He stopped in a doorway and pretended to wait to be let in, which I knew wasn't true because I lived in the area and walked past the for sale sign on that house every day. It was a new building that wasn't fully finished yet. I decided to walk the long way home up the only street with lights and cars, and as I got around halfway I saw him start to follow again. I hoped the local shop would be open so I could go in there, but it wasn't. Neither was the takeaway. There was no way to my house that was lit up because it's a small village, so if I had to walk home alone, it'd be in the dark. Thankfully, a restaurant was open and my mom knew the owners pretty well as she went there often, so I went in and asked to use their phone. They actually gave me a lift home. I was only about 21 at the time and quite small. I've been told I look innocent and weak, definitely seemed like an easy target, I think. I'm still so grateful to that restaurant. Story 8. I was at an after party with some co-workers and other rondos that somehow got invited. One of my co-workers was acting weird with the girl and getting more and more belligerent. I was on high alert and it was brought to my attention by another co-worker who was weirded out by the situation that the house smelled like natural gas. Sure enough, the crazy belligerent dude had turned all 4 burners on but never sparked them as well as the gas in the fireplace. He was rolling a blunt and I noped the f*** out. Got all my people out of that house and warned everyone else. I got loud and acted irrational. Belligerent dude tried like hell to keep us in, but I was assertive. I still think back to it and know what could have happened. Story 9. Never consent to a police search of your vehicle or your home. If they have to get a warrant, they are much more limited in where they can search and what they can take as evidence. Doesn't really work most of the time, TBH. I've had 2 times I got pulled over for zero reason, asked to search, and I said nope. Cop had a K9 there in 2 minutes and the dog immediately ran to my car and scratched out of my door. I have never had drugs in my car and I was literally coming home from getting my car completely detailed. It was immaculate. I was on the way home from college to my parents' house and had a backpack with clothes in it. The officer unzipped my backpack and flipped it upside down and shook everything out onto the dirt. I was so mad. His stupid ass dog scratched out of my door and he dumped all of my clean clothes onto the dirt just to find absolutely nothing. Story 10. Just avoid fights at all costs. Train a martial art and get it out of your system. Nothing like having a 16-yo stomp you to really make you realize anyone could kick your ass. One of my best friends and I got into a stupid fight while drunk about him peeing on a girl. He hit me, I hit him. He fell, hit his head on the concrete. He was out cold, pretty sure he had a brain bleed from the impact. We spent the night in the ER. His dad had to come out. It could have been worse, but it was really bad. We're still friends, but it was such a event for such stupid reasons. My mom always used to tell me this, and I never really thought much about it until I saw it firsthand. Story 11. If you know you'll be walking through a sketchy area, look sketchy. Back when I used to do a lot of night photography in an area with frequent muggings and robberies, this kept me out of bad situations. If people cross the street instead of passing by you, you're doing it right. Edit to add that these replies are hilarious. This worked for my countless night excursions in a high-crime area. The one time someone tried to rob me was when I happened to be out in my regular clothes on my way to meet friends. What looks sketchy depends on where you are. For my situation, it was a plain dark hoodie with the hood always up. Hood up shows you'd rather not be recognized and that you're comfortable where you are. Slightly tattered pants or shoes. I had these from skateboarding and walking like you know exactly where you are and where you're going. My camera was compact enough to hold in my hoodie pocket. Story 12. Gut feelings are just so fascinating to me whenever I think about it. One time I was out playing Pokemon Go after work. It was dark but not late, maybe 8 p.m. I wasn't far from home and I live in a decently safe area in a smallish town. I ended up leaving where I was sitting a spot I always played alone or with others to hit a few other stops before heading home. I guess I wasn't thinking because I turned down one street after where I was originally going to turn. No big deal, I'll turn around. Roughly about 7 houses down from where I was turning around, there was a truck parked on the side of the road. Again, no big deal, tons of people park on the street in front of their friends' houses. As I now had turned around, I was able to see the lights of the truck come on and it began driving. Thought nothing of it. For absolutely no reason at all, about 30 seconds later, a horrible feeling in my gut dropped. I was absolutely being followed. It was dark. I hadn't been on the street for long and there was no way whoever was in that truck could tell I was not only a female, but I was alone, but the gut was too strong to ignore. I ended up not freaking out and pretending not to notice and was headed home when I realized I'm an idiot and shouldn't go home for my safety and my mom's. I made a quick turn down this alley, which is small, and led to a gas station which was usually pretty busy. I thought I lost them or they actually weren't following me, as it was about 10 seconds or more and they hadn't turned behind me. I was still going to the gas station, but I felt less panicked. Then within what seemed like a flash, they were literally on my tail, like about to ram me close. I made it to the gas station and parked in the front by the doors. I didn't leave the car and just looked at my phone like nothing was wrong while side-eyeing my rearview mirror because they pulled into a pump. Again, though I still had that awful gut feeling, I was also still thinking there is no way they were really following me. I was just losing it. I am not at all a paranoid or scared person, so it was such an odd feeling. For the next hour I sat there, as did they, and no one ever got in or out of the truck, and so I knew for certain I made the right call. Eventually they ended up backing up instead of pulling forward, which is normal, went around the pumps and creeped slowly by my car and drove away. It was seriously one of the scariest situations I've ever been in, and for someone who doesn't pay attention to their surroundings, normally bad thing I know, or get spooked easily, I'm glad that gut feeling happened because I have a feeling something awful would have gone down had I not noticed. Story 14. My wife has a habit, mostly when driving but in general, of making snide comments to people who frustrate or upset her. Like if someone's rude, she'll make some comment loud enough for them to hear but not necessarily to them. She doesn't understand or care when I tell her to knock it the because it just takes one psycho to get confrontational over it and she'll regret it for life. There's a lot of those kinds of psychos in SoCal, but really just everywhere. You making that comment isn't going to make them be sorry or change their ways. They don't give a if you're upset with them. Only more negatives can come out of it. So keep it to yourself until they're long gone, then talk all the shit you want. I don't know if I hate her doing it when I'm around more or when she's alone. At least if I'm there, I might be able to protect her if they decide to retaliate unnecessarily. But that also means she's putting me in danger by doing something I repeatedly ask her not to do. Story 15. I got stopped by the police the other day while walking my son home from daycare. I live in South America. He cut right in front of me on his dual sport to stop me. He didn't even say hola. He lead with D and D assist. Or where were you born? I just said I don't speak Spanish in plain English. He asked a few more questions like, do you live here? Are you a tourist? Are you passing through? I understood everything he was saying, but I just gave him a blank stare. In this country, they have it out for Venezuelan refugees, and I guess he thought I was one since I'm black. I can't imagine the brutality they go through, but f that chapa. Story 16. If you are in a big city and someone is being overly friendly and inviting, they want something from you. A guy at a cafe struck up a conversation with me randomly and we had a really good chat. Ended up meeting up 1 or 2 more times for coffee. He asked me about my dreams in life and my ambitions. He spent a lot of time talking about his mentors and how they've enabled him to be more successful. He was very vague, a little sus at this point, so I asked what his mentors do and he said that's privileged information that he wouldn't feel comfortable telling me. Okay, weird, but I liked the guy and thought I made a friend. He lent me a book to read and even gave me a deadline to finish it. It was Business of the 21st Century by Robert Kiyosaki. I googled the book and it's apparently a primer to get people to join MLM schemes. I read a ton of stories online about interactions that were exactly like mine. I blocked the guy and kept his book. 2 weeks later, I'm waiting for the train and 2 20-something-year-olds come up to me and ask about the book I'm reading. Suddenly, they start asking what I want to do in life. Immediate red flags. Then they mention their mentors, bingo. I asked them if they've ever read Business of the 21st Century and they got all excited. Yeah, have you? I respond with, no, a guy gave it to me, but I found out he was trying to recruit me into an MLM scheme, so I blocked him. They got embarrassed. Weird, so strange. And then the interaction awkwardly ended after that. We got on the train and I saw them whispering to each other, probably about the failed recruitment attempt. Story 17. This actually happened to me. I was like 9 years old walking home from 7-11, got my Score Velcro shoes, my car grown out bowl cut, Toughskins, puffy blue old ski jacket with the melted elbow. It was 1979. This white van stops real fast in front of me, kind of skidding on the cinders. I'm in Central Oregon and they used to put red cinders on the roads instead of rock salt in the winter. So anyway, the door slams open and there's this skinny guy with ratty black hair and he yells, "Get in the van." I remember thinking it was weird that he said get in the van, like the van was somewhere else and he wasn't in it anyway. I didn't stick around long enough for him to finish the sentence. I booked the fuck across the yard and behind the house I was in front of. I heard the door slam shut and the van drove off fast. I hung out for a few minutes and then jogged home. I remember thinking they were a but I didn't think it was important enough to tell anyone. I forgot about it, and it has only come back to my memory a couple of times since, this being one of them. Weird to realize how lucky we are sometimes. Story 18. Maintaining your walking speed will get you out of lots of situations of people harassing you. Whether it's beggars or punks thugs looking for a fight, don't stop walking no matter what you do, even if it's someone trying to sell you something. Maybe you accidentally made eye contact and want to share some words to be nice. Fine, just keep the legs moving you forward. Obviously, not saying anything is usually the better move, but sometimes I can't help it. Still keep walking. Story 19. This is for the metro or crowded areas. If you have a wallet, always wrap a rubber band around it just in case someone tries to pick it. The rubber will, rub against the fabric of your clothes. And also, in case you're in a huge party or show or somewhere you could be robbed, shove your important stuff inside your underwear. That's a popular method in places like Venezuela, where such thing is popular. Story 20. If you are in trouble, go for the throat punch. I once incapacitated a 220 lb man as an 120 lb female, but he deserved it. He was abusive. The best part was that he couldn't speak and they thought he was having an allergic reaction and gave him the EpiPen. I never told. He deserved it though. He choked and hit me. More than once.